Revision questions. Chapters: The Dear Departed and The Canterville Ghost. Question 1. Read the extracts and answer the questions. The Dear Departed. Extract 1. Drat me if that isn't my clock too. What the devil's been going on in this house? Question 1. Who is the speaker and whom is he addressing? What is the confusion regarding the clock? Answer. The speaker is Abel Merriweather. He is addressing his daughters, Mrs. Slater and Mrs. Jordan. The confusion regarding the clock arises because Mrs. Slater, thinking Abel was dead, had taken the clock from his room and placed it in the living room. Abel is surprised to see it, as it still belongs to him. Question 2. Describe the reaction of the Slaters and the Jordans when Abel Merriweather walked into the parlor. Answer. Both the Slaters and the Jordans are shocked and astonished when Abel Merriweather walks into the parlor, as they had presumed he was dead. They are initially speechless and struggle to explain the situation, especially since they had already started dividing up his belongings. Question 3. Why was Mr. Merriweather presumed dead? What happened to him? Answer. Mr. Merriweather was presumed dead because Mrs. Slater found him in a deep sleep and thought he had passed away. However, he was only sleeping after having too much to drink. He woke up later, much to everyone's surprise. Question 4. Why does Mr. Merriweather decide to make another will? What offers does he receive as a result of this? Answer. Mr. Merriweather decides to make another will after realizing how eager his daughters were to divide his belongings while he was still alive. He feels betrayed and wants to ensure that his wealth does not go to either of them after seeing their greed. As a result of this decision, both Mrs. Slater and Mrs. Jordan start offering to take care of him and give him attention, hoping to secure a place in his will. Extract 2. Victoria returns, very scared. Victoria. Mother. Mrs. Slater. What is it, child? Victoria. Grandpa's getting up. Question 1. Elaborate on why Victoria was so scared. Answer. Victoria was scared because she believed her grandpa, Abel Merriweather, was dead. Her mother, Mrs. Slater, had assumed so after finding him unresponsive, and the family had already begun dividing his belongings. When Victoria saw her grandpa getting up, it terrified her because she thought she was witnessing something supernatural, not knowing that he had simply been in a deep sleep. Question 2. Character sketch of Henry Slater. Answer. Henry Slater is portrayed as a passive and somewhat timid character. He is Mrs. Slater's husband and is dominated by her strong personality. Throughout the play, he appears uncomfortable with his wife's schemes to take over Abel Merriweather's belongings but does not openly oppose her. Henry often tries to remain neutral and avoid conflict, reflecting his weak-willed nature. He occasionally provides comic relief with his reactions, particularly when trying to deal with the absurd situation of Abel's sudden resurrection. Although not overtly greedy, Henry goes along with his wife's opportunistic plans, showing that he lacks moral courage and is more interested in maintaining peace than standing up for what is right. Question 3. Why did Mr. and Mrs. Slater move Abel Merriweather's clock and bureau? Answer. Mr. and Mrs. Slater moved Abel Merriweather's clock and bureau because they believed he had passed away, and they wanted to secure the more valuable items before Mrs. Jordan, Abel's other daughter, arrived. Mrs. Slater, driven by greed, decided to take the bureau and the clock for themselves before anyone else could claim them, assuming that these belongings would be part of the inheritance. Question 4. Central to the plot of The Dear Departed is a confusion that the characters experience. What was the confusion? Answer. The main confusion in The Dear Departed revolves around the presumed death of Abel Merriweather. Mrs. Slater found Abel lying still in his bed and mistakenly thought he had passed away. Without properly checking if he was truly dead, the family began dividing his possessions. The confusion escalates when Abel suddenly wakes up, alive and well, causing shock and panic among the family members. This misunderstanding about Abel's death forms the central irony of the play and exposes the selfishness and greed of his relatives. The Canterville Ghost. Extract 1. The sound of approaching footsteps made him change his mind, and he pacified himself by becoming phosphorescent and vanished into thin air. Question 1. Why did the ghost glare at Mrs. Otis furiously? Answer. The ghost glared at Mrs. Otis furiously because she offered him a bottle of lubricant for his chains instead of being frightened. Mrs. Otis didn't react with fear, as the ghost expected, but rather with practicality and indifference, which deeply insulted and angered him. He felt humiliated by her casual response to his attempt at scaring the family. Question 2. Do you think the twins were afraid of the ghost? Justify your answer. Answer. No, the twins were not afraid of the ghost. In fact, they constantly played pranks on him, showing no signs of fear. They attacked him with pillows, set up booby traps, and even threw a jug of water on him during one of his appearances. Their mischievous and fearless behavior caused the ghost a great deal of frustration, as he was accustomed to terrifying people, not being ridiculed by them. Question 3. Elaborate on the ghost's thoughts about Virginia. Answer. The ghost viewed Virginia differently from the rest of the Otis family. He did not attempt to scare her and, in fact, felt that she had a kind and compassionate nature. Virginia, unlike her family members, showed understanding and sympathy towards the ghost, and he later confided in her. The ghost appreciated her for listening to his story and helping him find peace, recognizing her innocence and purity of heart. Question 4. Would you consider the Canterville Ghost's second appearance a successful one? What, according to you, would be the features of a truly terrifying ghost's appearance? Answer. The ghost's second appearance was far from successful. Instead of terrifying the Otis family, he was ridiculed and pranked by the twins. A truly terrifying ghost's appearance would likely include eerie, ominous elements such as glowing eyes, chilling whispers, cold drafts, and a shadowy or decaying form. Additionally, a terrifying ghost would instill fear through unpredictability, unnerving silence, or sudden, startling actions that catch people off guard, unlike the Canterville Ghost, whose attempts were predictable and ultimately ineffective. Question 5. The ghost broke down on being unable to scare the Otis family. What led to the breakdown? What does this tell us about the ghost? Answer. The ghost's breakdown was caused by his repeated failures to frighten the Otis family, which deeply wounded his pride. After centuries of successfully haunting Canterville Chase, his inability to scare the Otises shattered his confidence. This tells us that the ghost was not only proud of his past achievements as a fearsome specter but also deeply dependent on his role as a ghost to maintain his identity. The breakdown reveals his vulnerability and a sense of despair over his loss of purpose. Extract 2. He despaired, cried, stomped his feet and was very agitated. This was too much. Question 1. Who was referred to as he? Why was he agitated? What, according to him, had betrayed him? Answer. The he referred to is the Canterville Ghost. He was agitated because, despite his repeated efforts, he could not scare the Otis family. This was deeply humiliating for him, as he took pride in his reputation as a fearsome ghost. According to him, his own haunting abilities had betrayed him, as he could no longer terrify people the way he once did. He felt as though his centuries-old reputation was crumbling due to the Otis family's indifference and even mockery. Question 2. Why did the ghost scream piteously and hide his face with his bony hands? Answer. The ghost screamed piteously and hid his face with his bony hands after one of the twins set a trap for him. They had rigged a string across the hall, causing the ghost to trip and fall. This was a further blow to his dignity, as it showed that not only were the family members unafraid of him, but they were also actively making fun of him. His scream was a mixture of frustration, pain, and humiliation. Question 3. Why did the Canterville ghost decide to go and speak to the other ghost? Answer. The Canterville ghost decided to go and speak to the other ghost, known as the Headless Earl, because he was desperate for advice. After being repeatedly mocked and outwitted by the Otis family, the ghost felt he needed help to regain his former terrifying presence. He hoped that the Headless Earl, being another ghost, could provide guidance or offer strategies on how to scare the family. Question 4. How did the ghost prepare for his third attempt to scare the Otis family? Answer. For his third attempt, the Canterville ghost decided to return to one of his most terrifying personas, Reckless Rupert, or the Headless Earl. He carefully prepared by polishing his armor, oiling his chains, and rehearsing his terrifying laugh, intending to give a classic and terrifying performance. He believed that this older, well-known persona would finally scare the Otis family into submission. Question 5. What happened when Mr. Otis pointed his revolver at the ghost? Answer. When Mr. Otis pointed his revolver at the ghost, it had no effect on the ghost's behavior. The ghost was not frightened by the gun but was more humiliated by the family's lack of fear and their practical, dismissive reactions to his attempts at scaring them. Mr. Otis's action further demonstrated that the family did not take him seriously, which added to the ghost's growing frustration.
Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more updates.